Today on Locked On Red Wings, we talked about what went wrong and we talked about what went right. But now, what comes next?
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. Scotty's also over at Locked On Tigers, who just swept the O's. First in the American League, Detroit Tigers. What an exciting time to be a Tigers fan. He's also a sports writer over at C&G Newspapers, while I am a color commentator for Oakland University ACHA D1 Men's Hockey. And today's episode is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox, no console needed. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. Want to thank you guys for making Locked On Red Wings your first listen every day as well. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Scotty. I kind of teased it there in the cold open. It's kind of the point of the cold open, right? We talked a lot last week about what went wrong with the season, and we talked then after that about what went right. But now looking ahead to the offseason as a kind of a first blush at what this team's holes are and what they need to do to fill those gaps, what comes next with this hockey team? And I think you and I are at a point now where I'm not going to be just like, what's the team need, Scotty? Like, we both know what this team needs, right? There's three big holes that this team still needs. They still need a top six winger. You have 5 out of 6, hopefully 5 if Kane comes back. 5 out of 6
really,
of your
you
top
could
6
just
players.
say top 6 forward. I
Top
think.
6 forward.
Really, would anyone be mad if they got a
Right.
a top 6 center? Like,
I think a lot of people were content just because Marco Kasper was there and he was playing well. But yeah, top 6 center would still be welcome for sure. A top 4 defenseman and an actual 1A goalie. Now, I say 1A goalie because true starting goalies are hard to come by. Your Connor Hellebuycks, don't look at his stats in the postseason, your Andre Vasilevskis, your Linus Ullmarks, like those guys are not available. And the ones that do are become locked up very fast. So those are all things that this team desperately needs. And you're going to listen and hear that and you go, oh my God, they need the best players on their team still to fill their gaps. And honestly, yeah, they're at least 1 or 2 players short at each position for right now. My question to you, Scotty, the way I want to frame this is, to you, which is the most pressing need that they need to fill this offseason? What is priority number 1?
yeah, man, there is, I'm sure, a plethora of opinions on this, and I think, timing of the offseason is also important. Like, we were talking before we hit record, and you had brought up, like, even if your answer isn't top 6 forward, like, if there's a really good one, Mitch Marner being probably the biggest name this offseason, like, if there's a really good one out there that you're in the running for and can afford, then, like, that doesn't mean, like, we have to prioritize, like a defenseman, a second pair defenseman, because, that's our biggest need. So we're not going to, like, there's some stuff that kind of transcends that. But to me, it really is on the defensive side of the puck or in net, man. And I know a lot of people really want, like, the big splash. And honestly, I do too. Like, again, I want the Wings to be in on Marner, and I want that. I want to manifest that, and I think that a top 6 forward is something that's really important. But like, you look at the direct correlation between performance in net and what the Wings did this season, and at the start of the season when they weren't playing well, but they were still getting some wins here and there because they got really, really good goaltending, and then the goaltending completely fell apart, and the team fell apart, and then the goaltending was decent at the end, and the team, kind of was able to recover a little bit and almost give you hope. Like, I really think that I'm trying to, I guess, kind of decide, I guess is the word, between
Decide on the fly.
and goalie. I think I'll lean defenseman. The only reason why is because I think they desperately need a goaltender, but I'm going to lean defenseman just for the sheer fact that you can sign a defenseman to a long-term deal and it will be welcome no matter what. Whereas goalie, I feel like the Wings are probably a little bit more like, okay, we really want to see how Kosa turns out. We really want to see how Augustine turns out kind of long-term. So because there's a chance you're getting, and not even a guarantee, but a chance you're getting a rookie reinforcement next year, I'll lean blue line. And I would even venture to say it's not top 4. I think you need a top pair defenseman. I really do think that you need to improve the depth there substantially from where it's at right now. It's honestly, we can just call it what it is. I think it's terrible.
Yeah, I think that they have their top pairing in Simon Edvinsson and Moritz Seider, but your point is still, like, they need 2 top 4 defensemen. Like, I agree with you that their most pressing need this offseason is defense, because you look at who you have under contract, right? It's Seider, who's, one of the best in the league as a two-way defenseman. Simon Edvinsson is showing flashes of being, he's definitely a top 4 defenseman. I think a top pair defenseman with Seider in the future. But after that, like, what are your options? Ben Sherratt, who struggles mightily under top 4 minutes, has the odd, stretches here or there where he's good, but for the most part, underlying numbers suggest he makes every pair he's on worse.
For sure.
Jeff Petrie, whose contract is up, so I imagine he's probably done with the city of Detroit. So then after that, your depth chart, your second best right side D-man is Justin Holl again, who is, was his underlying numbers suggest he was okay as a very sheltered third pair defenseman, but that's literally the only situation he can be playable in, is as a extremely sheltered third pair defenseman. You got Eric Gustafsson who can play either side. Albert Johansson was a nice diamond in the rough, but it's just like, you need so much on the defensive end, and I don't really know if if there's a solution internally right now. Like, ASP in the future, I think, is going to be on this blue line, but of course his talent is offensive oriented. We need defense.
Well, they have a handful of guys, right?
They got Tuomisto. They got
yeah,
Wallander.
But that's the problem. Is like they're all of the guys that people are excited about on the blue line are either A, still years plural away from being rookies. Right? Like, they're not like immediate solutions. And B, you have so many holes on the blue line that even if all of them pan out and are here on opening night by some miracle, which obviously isn't reality, you still would need a defenseman. Like, that, they literally have like 2.5 defensemen long term, and they have again, as you mentioned, half of the top 4 is just completely wide open. I think it's a massive issue, and that's the reason I picked that one, is not only for the immediate, but that's something that, like, you could very easily sell. Like, hey, we're going to sign a top pair, a solidified top 4 defenseman to a long-term deal, and everyone would be on board.
And there are some options on the free agent market, at least of the pricier variety. Obviously, as we get closer to free agency, we'll break down a couple other options that you could have. But, Gavrikov out in LA is a popular one right now. That's a guy who you could sign who could play top 4 minutes for this team. Another popular one that I've touted in the past is Aaron Ekblad. Now, as I've gotten a little bit of cold feet getting closer to the free agency with Aaron Ekblad, just because his play, they're having some red flags with his play. His play has declined a little bit in the last year or two, and there's injury history there. So I'd be a little apprehensive giving him like the big payday. But at the same time, when he's on, he is a legitimate top 4 pairing defenseman who has an edge. That he has that kind of it factor this team lacks right now with the physicality. So those are things that you don't have in your organization that are on the market this year that the Red Wings could target. And that's, I think, why I agree with you that should be kind of like an area of focus for them in the offseason, whereas at least with goaltending, we think we might have a solution internally. Also, not to mention that, Mrazek and Talbot are here for another year regardless. So, but you have Kosa down in the AHL. You think he might be your solution internally. You hope he earns a roster spot out of camp, forces their hand to either carry 3 or, send Mrazek or Talbot down to the Griffins like they did with Husso. Of course, Husso was, let's face it, unplayable at the NHL level. At least that wouldn't be the case with Talbot. But you hope that solution is there internally. So that's why I agree with you. While those two needs, the true 1A goalie and a top 4 or maybe 2 top 4 defensemen are massive needs, I would say that the more pressing need is the defensive aspect of it because of the fact that you don't have that internal solution right now for that role. Scotty, we still have to discuss, though, their need at top 6 forward, and we'll talk about that on the other side of this break, because in our opinion, that's the spot that needs is like third in priority, doesn't mean that should be the smallest priority going into the offseason, given the caliber of players that may be available at that position. That still might be number 1, and I'll explain why after this. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where the heck did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center, and you can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you can stop managing your money and start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without all the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty, I teased before the break there. We had explained why, for us, our most pressing need that this team still has, biggest hole this team still has to fill, is all that pain on my hand. Jesus.
That's crazy, dude.
It's like I didn't even make an effort to get it off. But we made a point. I make zero effort at all. We made the point that the biggest hole in this team was a need at the top 4. 1 or 2 players even, and that's a big hole if you need 2 players to fill your top 4. That's 50% of it. But with whom is available in the free agent market this year, your most pressing priority going into free agency may just be a top 6 winger. And don't get me wrong, you need at least another top 6 forward, right? Maybe you could do for another center, too, as you noted at the beginning of the episode. I think a lot of fans right now with how Marco Kasper played are pretty content with him as your 2C going in the next year, but you desperately need somebody to play with Larkin and Raymond right now because you do not have it. And this year, there is the possibility of Mitch Marner, and people are going to hear that, and they're going to roll their eyes because it's not the first time I've gotten on this podium, right? Mitch Marner hits the free agent market. That is a can't-miss player. That is a guy that, if you're Steve Yzerman, you're paying $14-15 million for. And I will not hear any arguments for the other. This is one of the best defensive forwards in the NHL, Scotty, on top of being a 100-point scorer.
100 points, man.
100 points as one of the best defensive forwards in the NHL. He plays PK Unit 1 on Puck IQ. If you look on Puck IQ, he gets the toughest deployments in the NHL as a forward. And the second to him is Austin Matthews, who plays on the same line with him. So this is a guy who, even if he's not playing with Austin Matthews and his point production regresses to 90 points. When was the last time we had a 90-point scorer? It was Pavel Datsyuk, by the way. But anyways, you haven't had a 90-point scorer since Pavel Datsyuk. That's worth it. And guys of that caliber do not hit the free agent market that often. And guys of that caliber who also play good defense don't hit the free agent market that often. He makes you better in more ways than one, right? Not only does he bring all that offense and fill a need in the top 6, he makes you better defensively. So while maybe you wouldn't have the money this offseason to go out and get a top 4 defenseman if you get Mitch Marner, he does make you better defensively too. And as a top PKer, he's going to help your goaltending situation out because Cam Talbot, notably
and the worst PK we've ever seen.
Worst PK we've ever seen. And your goaltending, Cam Talbot was one of the worst goalies on the penalty kill this season. He helps you in every situation. So if you're the Red Wings, and even as us fans, right, and hosts of this show, we may view defenseman, goaltending, and then top six forward as like the whole hierarchy, let's call it the whole hierarchy on this team, Mitch Marner should still be priority alpha if he hits the free agent market. Again, if.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a weird kind of line to walk, but I think that you can have, top defensemen talent-wise be the roster spot that needs to be addressed the most, while also prioritizing one specific player that doesn't fill that necessarily as like the top target for the summer. I mean, I'm right there with you. I'm not going to be the one to disagree with you on that. I think he makes your team better in so many different ways. Yeah, man. Like we have been for so long, this fan base has been asking for like that true top end, one of the best players in the NHL. They haven't really gotten it through the draft. They've gotten a lot of great players through the draft, right? A lot of great players through the draft. But they don't have that forward that is just single-handedly one of the best players in the league. And now there is a chance that if he makes it to free agency, that is somebody that you can target this summer. So I think it's an absolute slam dunk. And I think that I was going to say it solves two of your problems, but honestly, it solves a lot. That is one player that fills just absolutely a ton of needs for your hockey team.
And then even if you whiff on him, like Brock Besser is still hitting the free agent market too. And if it's for any other year,
top to bottom, really.
If it were any other year, Brock Besser would be like the golden child of free agency. I mean, this is a guy who had 25 goals and 25 assists for 50 points in 75 games played this year. Last season, he had a career high of 73 points and 40 goals. Every single year, he's a perennial like 50-point getter at minimum. And the years he didn't hit that were either shortened because of COVID or shortened because of injury. Like, this is a guy who is over a half point per game, top six forward production. Right? Because I know everyone gets googly eyes at 80 and 90 and 100 points, but a 50, 60-point player in free agency, like that's a valuable slot. There's also Sam Bennett, who's another 50-point guy who brings a very physical element that this team needs. So, like, there are guys in the free agent class this year who, even if you were to whiff on Mitch Marner, because let's be realistic here, the chances of the Red Wings actually getting Mitch Marner is pretty slim. Every single team in the league is going to be offering him a contract. And the Red Wings, while I don't think they're an undesirable location because they are a team that is on the upswing in their rebuild and they have a lot of young pieces to stay competitive for a long time if they can get if they can get an X factor like Mitch Marner especially. But, there might be, especially with the rising cap, a team that's in playoff contention right now or in a cup window right now who could offer him a contract. So there's me talking about Mitch Marner makes it no guarantee that he comes here. But that doesn't mean the Red Wings shouldn't try. They should still absolutely swing for the fences for this kid. And that should be the Red Wings' number one priority going into the offseason, in my opinion, even if their biggest holes, their whole hierarchy, as we are calling it now, is defense, then goalie, then top six forward.
One of us is calling it that.
We are calling it that. When one of us does something, we both do something. We are calling it that.
I hope that's not true. Yeah.
Scotty, I think now is a good time to take a breath and talk about, on the other side of this break, about who on the team is part of this team's future and who we should try and move on from too. I think that's a very important conversation as well when we talk about what comes next with this team. So stay tuned for segment 3 of Locked On Red Wings.
All right, well, we are going to tell you today about wonderful pistachios, apparently. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious while cracking into a good source of protein with wonderful pistachios. Wonderful pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts, with each 1 ounce serving having 6 grams of protein. That gives you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I absolutely love the no shells variety. As I tell you all the time, they're the perfect grab and go snack for busy days, whether I'm sitting at my desk, on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost. They are always my go-to. And if you do love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, well, the in-shell options are a classic favorite as well. So get cracking and get snackin with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Oh, get out of here, dude.
You're having a moment here. This is what happens when you get Scotty control.
Screwed me up.
I didn't press anything.
You screwed me up.
I'm like, when I click on things, it makes it worse. So
You're right.
I didn't click on anything.
Click on things?
I didn't click on things.
You did.
Okay. Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast. All right, Scotty, we want to do a whole episode on this in probably about a week or so. About who stays, who goes. I know you did that while I was on my honeymoon, but I didn't get a chance to talk about it, so we're going to rehash it again in 2 weeks, especially now that the season's actually over. I think it's a good time to talk about it. But just real quick, when we're talking about what comes next for the Detroit Red Wings, I think internally, looking inwards as well as externally and looking outwards is just as important. And, even outside the contracts that are expiring, I think the Red Wings should try and move a couple bodies, not just to free up cap space, but to free up roster space, because there's a lot of guys you're paying money who just frankly, and Andrew Kopp called it out, weren't doing enough to take the load off Larkin and Raymond's shoulders.
Yeah, I think there is so much opportunity to clear cap space, right? There is so many players on this roster right now that are not playing up to their price tag. And I think that this summer is going to be really interesting for a lot of those caliber of players, right? Kopp, even though he had a little bit of a resurgence before getting hurt, but I still think is pretty comfortably in that conversation. And then obviously you look at the defense and it's like the whole blue line pretty much. I mean, literally like the entire blue line, Sans Sider and the two rookies. But I think that is where you are going to have to make magic. Like that's where you have to figure out how to, you're going to have to utilize those assets to clear space, and that is going to be a huge part of this offseason. This offseason will not be as fun and great as it could be if the Red Wings do not clear up not only the cap space, but the roster spot that some of these players are holding. So yeah, man, like absolutely. Like I said, I mean, it's pretty much like legitimately over half of the defenseman unit. And then there's a handful of forwards. And honestly, if you really need to, either goalie, you'd have to replace him with someone. But like, I don't think anyone's losing sleep if either goalie is moved either. So like, yeah, dude, there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of people being paid more than the production they're giving the Wings.
Yeah, there's a lot of players on this roster that you say to my name and I'm like, see ya, bye. But at the same time, realistically speaking, I don't think Yzerman's going to make a ton of moves. He might make a move or two to offload some of these contracts that just aren't, playing to their value. But like, I don't think we'll see. We were talking about it last year. We were so sure that Justin Holl would get traded. Like, just you send him out with the pick to a team that doesn't, just needs bodies, right? Like an Anaheim Ducks or San Jose Sharks. Instead, we sent Wellman out, and that's a different conversation. And that didn't happen. Instead, we kept Justin Holl on for another year. So it's just like what I want to happen versus what I expect to happen is a little bit different. But you're completely right. Compher and Kopp, you're paying a combined $10 million to, a little over probably, and they're very similar players. They're both middle six centers, probably closer to bottom six centers now that Kasper's moved into that role and he was playing so well. And while I do like the idea of having Larkin, Kasper, Kopp, Compher as your four, like that is a deep center core. That's a lot of money to be spending on that center core.
Yeah, it's
like you don't need that
significantly overpaid, but it is deep. It's also one injury away from being shallow.
Right. And I mean, you make up some of that money with Kasper being on an ELC, but Jeff Petrie, I don't think you're going to even think about re-signing, which sucks because it sucks on one area. I do wish he had hit 1,000 games with the Detroit Red Wings, his hometown team. That would have been very nice. It's unfortunate that injury happened. I've always liked Jeff Petrie. I think he just kind of came here at an unfortunate time in his career. Jeff Petrie in his prime, I wanted on this hockey team, but I digress. Eric Gustafsson, I'm okay with keeping Gustafsson for one more year just because he was playing a little bit better with Todd McClellan. I'd like to see one full training camp to see what he can get because I know he's better than he provided. But same conversation, Vladimir Tarasenko, right? He's got one more year left in his deal.
Didn't even mention Vlad.
They couldn't get him going. Like McClellan talked about trying to get Vlad going, and they couldn't. And it's like, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but if you can move Vladimir Tarasenko, then move him. I can't believe those words just came out of my mouth because, you go back to when they signed him, I would have never thought a year from then I would have been saying these things. But there's a lot of guys on this roster who make good money who did not produce this year. And you got two goalies. One, you're paying $2.5 million for Cam Talbot. I think that's fair value for the production you got out of him. But Peter Mrazek, by the numbers with the Blackhawks, was one of the worst goaltenders in the league this last year. He has one more year at $4.25 million. We just got out from underneath Husso. Like, why did we get – and I understand, like, goaltending is getting expensive in the NHL. Even mediocre goalies are making a lot of money. But that doesn't mean go out and pay a lot of money for – you get my point. Like, it's just – there's a lot of guys on this team who you don't really need to bring back. I would be happy – I would be satisfied with one or two moves to offload some of this excess salary cap. I think that's a fair expectation, one or two moves. But I also would not be surprised if this is just the guys on the team are the guys on the team, and that's who we see next training camp, plus maybe a couple bodies through free agency.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I think that the need to get this team into the postseason is too demanding for this organization to accept just let's just run it back again and see if this year's different. I think they need to go out and even if it's not go out and make the biggest splash of the entire summer, they need to be active this year. I don't think complacency is acceptable.
And that doesn't even bring into the question the no trade clauses, right? Like both Kopp and Comfer have 10-team no trade lists. Vlad has a full no trade clause. So you at least this offseason. So that once July 1st hits, it's a partial no trade clause. 8-team no trade list as soon as July 1st hits, and the new league year turns over. Whenever the new league year turns over, it might be during the draft. So, that throws a whole nother wrench in the conversation. One player I want them to bring back is Patrick Kane. If the mutual interest sounded like it was there, if they can bring him back, that'd be great. It would help. You'd have that Casper DeBrincat Kane line that looked so good. Another year of Casper getting better too. I think that'd be great. But he's the only player that's contract is up that I'm I'd bring back.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think we all, I shouldn't speak for the entire fan base, but I think most people would be okay with him coming back. He produced really well. I don't have anything else. I agree.
Yep. Who won't be back is Alex Westlund. Sean Shapiro is reporting that the Detroit Red Wings are going to be sounds like they're going to be parting ways with goalie coach Alex Westlund, which makes sense considering how big of a sore spot goaltending has been and the inability to kind of right that ship quickly. Also, the want of Todd McClellan to bring his own guys in too, I'm sure didn't hurt the situation either. Scotty, that might be why we haven't heard from Yzerman yet. I know we will hear from Yzerman at some point. It's just kind of odd that it hasn't happened yet, but it sounds like it's probably waiting upon the official coaching changes that McClellan's going to make before they have the end of season media availability. If I were a guessing man, that'd be probably the reason why.
Are you?
I'm guessing that's the reason. Yeah. So I'm a guessing man.
So if you are a guessing man and you are a guessing man.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, but you are.
Roll the tape. Scotty, the Griffins play at the Stars on Tuesday. At the start of the divisional series of the AHL playoffs, so just keep an eye out for that. They're going to be in Texas, as the Texas Stars are the 2nd seed. So just keep an eye out for that. People who are listening, you can watch that legally on Flow Sports. That is where the legal streams are for AHL hockey. So check it out there. Scotty,
Legal.
Final thoughts?
We ball, baby.
We do ball. We'll be back tomorrow with a new episode. Stay tuned for that. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.
Every day.